Hello everyone, this is Saili Salkar from Sanjeevani College of Engineering, Kopargaon. I am an SAP co-in-charge for Sanjeevani College of Engineering. So in this video session, I will be taking the SAP training for particularly the ABAP module. So the agenda of this training is, firstly, I will start with the introduction to the ERP. What actually is the ERP that we will learn. Then after the ERP introduction, we will go on to the SAP introduction or introduction to SAP, and then we will see the navigation through SAP. That is, how is the installation process of SAP logon, how to go on to SAP logon, and how to do the different navigations in that particular GUI. And lastly, we will go for the question answer sessions. So let's start with the SAP training. So initially we will go with the introduction with ERP. So basically we all must know, before starting of SAP program or training, we all must be aware what actually is ERP, because SAP is nothing but it is a kind of ERP. So ERP stands for Enterprise Resource Planning. So as its name indicates, Enterprise Resource Planning, it is a type of a software which is used by different enterprises or organizations. So the organization may be a small scale organization or it may be a large scale organization, requires a certain kind of planning for their different functioning or for their different uh, functions which is ongoing in their particular organization. So these organizations or the enterprises require some sort of planning. So this planning can be done with a software which is ERP. So ERP is used to manage the day-to-day business activities of these organizations. So what are the day-to-day activities related to different kind of organizations? So they may be accounting, they may be sales, they may be finance or procurement, they may be supply chain management. So these are the different activities which is carried out on daily basis in different organizations or in different enterprises. So to streamline this all different activities of an organization, there is a software called as ERP, Enterprise Resource Planning. So there are different examples where the ERP softwares are used, such as the most use of the ERP software is done by Amazon. Then there is another example such as Toyota, that also makes the most use of the ERP software. So this ERP, which is used to plan out all the activities which is carried out in an organization, it is a type of software. And the SAP which we are going to learn, the SAP is also a type of ERP. Means what? In short, we can say that SAP. So SAP, the full form I will tell you later on. So SAP is a kind of ERP. You can relate SAP to ERP. That is, SAP is also a type of ERP. And what is ERP? It is a software which is used to manage the day-to-day business activities of any organization. So this SAP becomes an ERP, or SAP is actually an ERP. So this ERP initially, when this ERP was not introduced in an organization, so what was the scene or what was the ongoing activities in an organization or in a business, that we will learn in the next part, that is business without ERP. So here is a diagram which is showing the activities which are going in an organization, or when the ERP was not used in an organization, what were the activities carried out and how were the processes, business processes going on, that is shown in this particular slide. So we will start with the customer. So here the customer you can see. So the customer is calling a certain organization, or it is calling a certain company, and he's placing a call to place a order for a car. He want to buy a car and he's placing a order to a certain company, XYZ company. So when he places the call to a company, it goes to the sales. So the sales will receive a call. As you can see, the sales is receiving a call from a customer to and he is placing order to buy a car. So as soon as the sales receives the order from a customer, the sales contact the inventory department. So this sales inventory, these are the different terms, or these are the different departments which are existing in a certain organization or a company. Then sales department contacts to the inventory to check whether this car is available or not. Then the inventory contacts the production planning, that is PP department. So production planning department is then asked by the inventory to check whether this model or this car model is available for the delivering the customer or not. As well as sales can also directly contact the production planning. Okay, means sales can contact the production planning PP, as well as inventory also contacts the production planning PP in an organization or in an company. Then the production planning goes contacts the purchasing for contacts purchasing for raw material. So this production planning teams check whether the raw materials which are necessary to develop this car XYZ car model is available with their purchasing team or not. That is checked by the production planning by giving a call to the purchasing department. So this is the process, or these are the undergoing process which are carried out when a customer place a call to certain company for an when he want to order an car. So this is a process you can see over here, which is carried out usually at the back end when a certain customer asks for the XYZ what component. So firstly the sales department he contacts, sales goes to inventory goes to production planning, and production planning lastly goes to the purchasing. So this is a scenario which is carried out generally in any organization. So for this scenario we will add now more business processes. Business processes means different business activities which are carried out in a certain organization or a company. So now next diagram you can see over here. So again we will repeat the process and we will see what happens at the back end when the business was carrying out without the ERP. Means when ERPs were not introduced, what was the scenarios taking place in a certain industry, that we will see again in detail in this particular diagram. So a customer places a call. So this is a customer who places a call and he asks again second time to the company that when is my car going to get, or where is my car. So that is a question asked by the customer to the company. So the sales department again goes to the purchasing department. So this purchasing department goes to the vendors. The purchasing department forwards the request to the vendors, as well as they forward the request to the production planning. They forward the request to the production planning, as well as the purchasing department calls the finance department also, because the finance department comes into picture, because they have to know the information from the finance department that what is the cost of the car, or what is the price required to develop the car model if it is not available in their company. So that requirement or that information is getting from the finance department to the purchasing department. So again vendors go to the inventory to check whether the material is available for the preparation of car or not. Purchasing contacts, now here you can see the three arrows from the purchase department, one to the vendor, one is to the finance, one is to the production planning. Means the purchase department has to contact three different departments, or three different it has to contact to three different stages to know whether there is availability of the car or not. Again, the finance department also has to contact to the other some department. Inventories has to contact to shop floor. Inventory has to contact to shop floor, as well as to the production planning. Means here in this diagram clearly you can see one of the activity. If it is a purchasing activity, that purchasing department has to contact to two or three other departments to know the status of any particular product. as well as all other departments has to contact the many different departments to know the status, whether the availability of the product can be done to the customer or not. So this creates a lot of confusion, or this was creating a lot of confusion initially in any organization or company to access the data. So so there came a solution which was a software called as ERP, Enterprise Resource Planning. So this ERP software or Enterprise Resource Planning made such a such a this ERP, Enterprise Resource Planning, was designed in such a way that all the information in an organization or all the information in an company should be managed at a central level. So it should be kept at a central point so that everyone has the access to the, and it was ensured that in a ERP everyone gets access to that particular central location. So in ERP software, the things were made in such a way that they were placed centrally at only one location in an company, and each department in an company, say purchasing, say finance, say production, say inventory, all this department could get access to that centrally located information. So what happened, due to this centralized process, each and every department in an organization got information from the same, we can say from the same point, from a single point, and that is why it became easy for all of them to access the information from a single point. So so now what had happened, so initially this process was decentralized. So as ERP came, the process became centralized. So here you can see the overall picture which is shown over here before the ERP was launched. That is, the customer calls the sales department. Sales has to contact to many of the other departments. It has to check the general ledger. General ledger means it is, you can say, it is a main accounting record of company. Means if you have to maintain a record of a company, it is kept in a general ledger. So from that you can access the company records. Okay, so sales department has to contact to the many different departments, and then it has to means it took a very large amount of time to get the data from these different departments. That is why the customers which placed an order in a company has to wait for long duration. So this process was generally decentralized one, and for so now, due to this, the customer has to wait for a long duration of a time to get his product or to get his required material from a certain company. So so there was the ERP developed, which is a centralized one. So the ERP architecture was developed, which was a centralized one. So here you can see why enterprise architecture. So why there felt a need to develop an enterprise architecture. So there are different reasons due to which the enterprise architecture came into existence. So first, numerous disparate information systems. So numerous disparate information systems. So as we have seen previously, one department or one of the function or department has to contact to many other departments to get the information. So that was very desperate. So they required to get the information from many different departments at a time. So this due to this, integrating the data was becoming costly. So integrating the data becomes costly. So the time required was also more, money was invested more, and the resources which were required that were also very huge in this system before the ERP was developed. Then inconsistency and duplication of data. Due to this, what happened? Each department is going on accessing the different departments for its information. So due to this, what happened? Duplication of data was increased. Then lack of timely information. Also the information which was required in this much amount of time, that took a large amount of time to get the information. Means it does the information doesn't uh, goes to the customer in the required amount of time. So due to all this what we can say disadvantages or difficulties in running any organization, they felt a required or they felt a requirement for a central enterprise, or they felt a requirement, different organizations felt the requirement for a centrally controlled business change. And then the ERP software was developed, that is enterprise resource planning. So this enterprise resource planning is mainly an integrated a software which is a centralized one, that is it brings all the information on a centralized system, and it integrates all the business processes on a single platform, which saves the time of an organization, also which reduces the duplication of data and maintains the privacy also. So here in this diagram you can see this enterprise resource structure or enterprise resource planning structure is integrating all the different business activities on a single platform, that is marketing, then HR, shop floor, sales, purchasing, production planning, plants, etc. All these business activities are now running on a centralized structure or on a centralized system which is called enterprise resource planning. So this enterprise architecture, what were the business after introduction of this ERP softwares, so what were the benefits of this ERP, that we will see now. So first is eliminates the duplication. As I said, the duplication of data is eliminated totally in ERP. Then discontinuity and redundancy in data means earlier the data due to duplication was discontinued, or the redundancy, the data was also lost. Redundancy is the lost in the data. So these three difficulties were overcome by the ERP, that is duplication, discontinuity and redundancy. Also it increases the return on investment made on IT implementations. Also it increased what return on investment made. So whatever investment the IT firms or IT organizations used to do, so their returns were also increased due to the ERP software. Then delivers quality information designed for enterprise as a whole. So it was delivering the quality information to an enterprise or an organization. It is also faster as well as cheaper. It also satisfies partners and customers, reducing required manpower. So it satisfies partners, also it requires the manpower. So you can see overall this advantage, or due to this benefits, the ERP software were very popularly increasing, or its demand in a market were increased very suddenly or rapidly. So ERP is or the enterprise architecture is based on ERMS. So ERMS stands for Enterprise Relationship Management System. So this ERMS, that is Relationship Management System. So relationship management means what? This data which is used in an industry or in an organization are related to each other. For example, we can say, if I take an example of any student from a university or from a college, so the student has a name. So name, we can say the name of student, we are assigning the roll number to the student, then the class of the student, then the year of the student in which he is studying. So these are the different parameters. So I can relate that the name of the student, suppose if XYZ is the name of a student and his roll number is 1, so I can relate that is one roll number is for XYZ, or XYZ has one roll number. So this has the relation between each other. So this data which is having relationship between each other, or they are related to each other, they are, this data is called as relational database or relational data. So enterprise resource planning architecture, ERP architecture, is based on such type of database management system, that is enterprise relationship management systems, and these are nowadays the backbones of modern industries. So and there are a set of applications combining these all ERMs. So they are for this enterprise resource planning is used for finance, production, sales, logistics, human resources, statutory compliance, etc. So these are two different set of applications where we can use the ERPs. So what actually is ERP. So we all have understood that the ERP is an enterprise resource planning, which is a centralized system. So here in this diagram, it explains the IT environment today, means how in an IT organization or in an IT firm, how the processes of information exchange or how the different activities takes place, that is shown in this diagram. So here you can see in this diagram, here in this diagram you can see, here this is the nothing but the database where the data is stored. The data for the different activities which is required in an IT firm or IT organization is stored here, which is called as a database. So this is nothing but the database. So this is nothing but the database. So from this database the different data applications run, such as web we can run, apps we can run, files or different data. So this database or this web apps and files acquires the data from the database for their running or for their implementations. So this webs apps or files can be used by different users, that is it can be local users means anyone can access those data. Then mobile users can also access different apps, different files, etc. Remote offices, the offices or small scale organizations can also acquire this data and they can use it. Then partners, customers and suppliers, the partners, customers and suppliers to which this IT firm or IT organization is related, they can also have the access to this data. So and this is the particular process which is carried out in any IT organizations, or the IT organizations or IT companies provides the data to the different users in this manner, that is they acquire the data from the database, implement it on the different platforms such as webs, apps and files, etc., and then they can be accessed by the different users. So here many different hardware platforms are there, many different applications are used, and this applications distribution is done by an IT organization. So what ERP plays, or here how ERP plays a role over here, that we will see. So here when accessing this data, there are some problems related while accessing this data. So these are application compatibility, application certification, replace target machine. So while accessing this data from an IT organizations, the systems requires application compatibility. Application compatibility means if my device which I am accessing or which I am acquiring the data from the certain kind of database, so if my I have to check whether my device is compatible with that particular data which I am accessing from the database, that is application compatibility. And then frequent application updates are there. Then efficient use of IT resources and efficient use of computing power. So these are the different problems which were arising due to the decentralization of the data. So when the ERP was introduced, the centralization of the data took place, and all of